Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this video. I didn't actually plan for it. Since this is the first video of game rankingers, I'll go ahead and explain what we'll be doing in these videos. Pretty much what we'll be doing is ranking games. That's it. Now let's skip the rest of this and go on. We'll be taking a look at some video game series and ranking them from the worst to the best, or in some cases least favorite to most favorite. Now it's probably pretty obvious, but I'll go ahead and say that obviously there's not going to be any singular games in this series, because I mean usually a series contains 2 or more stuff in it, so that's what we'll be going with. Any game series that has 2 or more games. Now if it's a game series with a lot of games like Mario or Sonic or something, then we'll only be looking at the main series basically. We'll have separate videos for spin-offs, but since they have a lot of games, we're sticking with the main stuff. There's way too many to count to just having one video or something. But of course, today we'll be taking a look at the Twisted Metal series. And we'll be seeing which one is the worst and which one is the best, and all the ones in between with ranking them and stuff. Okay, let's go.
To start things off, we have Twisted Metal 3 for the original PlayStation. This isn't really a bad game, it's just, you know, the worst one in the Twisted Metal series. While the graphics have been improved from the previous 2 games, it kinda feels like it could be the first in the series. In terms of how it feels when you play it, it feels kinda like an experiment that didn't do too well, but didn't do bad either. Critics would also agree that this game was not the greatest. However, it did sell well enough to get a greatest hits copy, so at least there's that. I'd say get this one if it's good and cheap, or if you just want to add it to your collection of Twisted Metal games.
Into years, desire turns into envy, and envy turns into a plan.
Up next we have Twisted Metal 4 for the original PlayStation. This game is basically just an improved version of Twisted Metal 3. It has better graphics and smoother gameplay and all that kind of stuff. And it has a thing where you can customize your own vehicle, which is actually pretty cool. Well, pretty cool that they thought of the feature, but it's kinda lacking. And they kinda changed some of the controls around a little bit, so you might be a little thrown off if this is not your first time playing the series. But newcomers may be able to get used to it, considering it controls like a lot of other car games. Critics were also a little more fond of this one than 3. And it too also received the greatest hits copy. I'd say get this if it's kinda cheap, but also for newcomers too. Up next we have Twisted Metal Small Brawl for the original the PS1. I'm just gonna say PS1. From the look of it, it kinda seems like it'd be worse than like 3 and 4, but honestly, it's a little more fun. Sure, it looks a little downgraded graphically and frame rate wise, but if you actually play the game, it doesn't feel all that bad. This game came out at a point when everyone started working on PS2 games, so you can tell not a lot of effort was put into it. But it was obviously enough effort to make me say that it was better than 3 and 4. Though some critics wouldn't really agree, and unfortunately this game didn't do well enough to get a greatest hits copy. While it's certainly not the best, I'd still recommend getting it as long as it's not too expensive. Up next we have Twisted Metal Head-On for PS2. Twisted Metal Head-On is kind of interesting. It seems to take the cartooniness of 3, 4, and Small Brawl and add it to the darkness of Twisted Metal Black, and this is kind of what you get. The graphics aren't exactly the best for PS2 standards, but it was originally a PSP game, so they kind of improved on that, so it kind of made sense. Also, this came out a couple years after the PS3 had already come out, so it's kind of the same story as Small Brawl. With the exception of feeling a little bit weird for some reason, the controls are actually pretty flawless. I don't really see any real problems with it. Head On also has a lot of variety to it, has a lot of stuff you can do. Especially Extra Twisted Edition on PS2, that has a lot more content. After talking so highly of this, you would probably think that, why isn't this number 1 for me? Well, despite all the greatness, it's still not exactly the best Twisted Metal, but that's only because of how good the next few are. Though if you were to ask critics, they would highly recommend this game. In fact, the PSP version of Head On got a greatest hits copy. Unfortunately, the PS2 version didn't. I would definitely recommend Head On for both systems, just not more than the ones I'm about to talk about. Up next is the very original Twisted Metal on PS1. The game that started it all, and it is somehow better than the previous ones, to me. Maybe it's because they did such a great job at the beginning. Just from looking at it, you might not think that it's better than the other ones, but if you actually play it, you might say otherwise, possibly. The graphics were pretty nice at the time, and, well, the controls are a little hard to describe. Somehow they feel a little more realistic than the others. I'm not sure how you could say that about a car and a controller, but somehow they do. It might be a little bit hard for me to describe why I think this one was better than the others that I talked about before. You just gotta trust me on this. Critics thought it was alright, and it did well enough to get a greatest hits copy. Actually, I'm not sure why I keep saying it did well enough to get it. That's the number of sales. It sold well enough to get greatest hits copy. I would definitely recommend this one, considering the fact that it's actually pretty cheap on the PlayStation Network. Up next we have the Twisted Metal remake on the PS3. This game definitely changed a lot of things. I mean, obviously, graphically it's the best looking Twisted Metal, but that's because it's the only one on PS3 so far. The controls, while similar to other Twisted Metals, are a little bit different feeling here, but that's partially because the physics in this game are different. In a way, it feels like they tried to go for a more realistic feeling, but they don't do too well at it. But that's okay, it's not game ruining or anything. There's a lot of fun to be had in this game, but there's just a few things holding it back from being number 1. Some parts of the physics can kinda screw up the gameplay a little bit, and the loading times can be a bit slow, which is a common problem for most PS3 games. And there's just a few other things, but other than that, it's still a pretty fun game. Critics also agree that this one was decent, but not everyone wanted to buy it because it never made a greatest hits copy. I would definitely recommend this one to anyone who has a PS3. Up next we have Twisted Metal Black for PS2. Twisted Metal Black is definitely the darkest of the Twisted Metal series, even darker than the Twisted Metal remake. While a bit messy looking, the graphics for this game look pretty good for an early PS2 game. The controls feel pretty good, no major problems that I can think of. While there's not as much content as say the remake or Head On, there's still a lot of fun to be had. And the way the story is and everything, this game is just really dark, has a really dark sense of humor, and is just really messed up. I guess you could say that this game is twisted. Why did I say that? Critics pretty much consider this the best Twisted Metal yet. In fact, whenever the greatest hits copy came out, it came with an online mode, or, well, on the extra disc anyway, so you could play online. Though I'm pretty sure the servers are long shut down. I would definitely recommend this game to anyone who has a PS2, PS3, or PS4, or any other system that this comes out on. And finally, we have Twisted Metal 2 for PS1. I'm not usually one to agree with a bigger crowd on things, not because it's a bigger crowd, but I usually just don't completely agree. But this one, I do. Like Twisted Metal 1, it's going to be kind of hard for me to describe why I think this is the best one out of all of them. And before anyone says it's nostalgia is the reason, that is not true, because I played this game years after it came out, and I still think it's the best one. This game had really great graphics for the time, has really great controls, has a really amazing soundtrack, the list goes on. Now this game is definitely not perfect, in fact there's a few things in the later games that they added that were better than this, but I'm cutting this game some slack because of its age. It's also the fact that this one just feels right. I really don't know how to describe it pretty well, but this one got me into playing Twisted Metal a lot more than the others did. I have tried playing all the others, and while there are some really good ones, this one just stands out for some reason. Strangely enough, this game also came out on PC. I just kind of wanted to mention that. Critics wouldn't exactly agree with me, but I know a lot of people that would, and quite obviously, this game got a greatest hits copy because, well, it's Twisted Metal 2. If you were ever to just get one Twisted Metal game, ever, it would be this. You would need to get this.
Thank you all for watching this video, and if you'd like to see more of these videos, then go ahead and subscribe. Or if you'd just like to see any other Untitled Team Gaming videos, then subscribe for that too. Oh, and like this video. We really appreciate that. Not sarcastically.